All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is 6:32. It is April 14th. It is another week. I hope everyone's feeling well and had a great weekend. A lot going on. I know it started out this weekend. Everybody was chirping about, the exclusion of the tariffs for electronics, for iPhones, for some semiconductors that got changed, and this and that, and everyone was debating on how the market's going to open, where we're going to open, and is the bottom in, and what does this mean? And I know, listen, there's a lot of anxiety out there because everyone is thinking about, how did they put money to work, short term, long term? Did they cover their shorts? How high could we go? How many months and quarters will this whole process go? And there's a lot we don't know, but there's some things we know, and there's some ways to navigate it. And hopefully, everyone had a good week last week. I feel like last week for the Alpha team and for Redler All Access, like, yeah, everyone made really good money. We were pretty on top of, that morning gap down on last Monday, 1 week ago. If you look here, if you remember, I tried to talk about 481 to 485, and that was a great spot to cover shorts and get long. Tuesday was a little odd, if I remember correctly. We had a little follow through, so that was good. And then Wednesday was the day that, that Trump came and, kind of dialed back the tariffs, but there was a lot of strength. If you remember, tech was strong. Hopefully your mind was right to see it. I know for me, I bought a bunch of options, and, I was away from my desk, but thank goodness I had some risk on. So when it happened, I was hoping that it would get through this area to fill this gap, and that happened. Wound up having like my biggest day in a while, probably top three of my career, which is nice. There were a lot of call sweepers out there. Listen, guys, with this new Trump administration, it seems like anything goes, and they're allowed to tell whoever they tell. So it's going to be your job to follow the blueprint of money, and figure out, like, who knows what, because there were a lot of out of the money option prints. And if you have like a option sweeper service, or there are guys on the Alpha team that talk about, hot calls, hot this, hot that. Anyway, you had that move to 547.49. And then I remember I took a few overnights home long, and I felt like they trapped you a little bit. So I gave back a little bit, and then, nice inside day on Friday. So, but we closed strong. We closed above the moving average here. So I don't think anyone's really caught short. It's just a matter of how long you are. I had to go to Pittsburgh for an AU basketball tournament, so I tried to buy calls, to be situated for what could be a good move. So I don't have a ton of exposure, but I'm feeling ready to go. If you look here, my system's down right now. Hopefully that's not indicative of the day. The SPYs right now are trading, I believe, at 540.70. So if you look here, this is where the SPYs are trading, 540.70. They were as high as 542. This was the high here. So a lot of people, like, everyone's confused. Nobody knows if they should short the open, if the open could still be buyable, if the high of the week's going to be today, the same way the low of the week was last Monday. All you know is that, there's room to about 547, right? 547, 549, was prior support that turns into resistance. There's a gap to be filled to 554-ish. You do have a descending trend line here. So this is going to be a tough spot to get through. There's always clues to the day. Like I said before, it feels like Trump is telling, has a bunch of friends out there, like Pelosi did, everyone, all these Washington people, all they did, they're all making a ton of money, doing the people's work. But anyway, Apple was really strong on Friday. So someone from the Apple knew, I remember I was in the car, I was calling trade support. I was like, what do I have on? And then I looked, I'm like, why is Apple up 4% or whatever it was? And then meanwhile, somebody must have known that they were going to get, put off on the side from the tariffs. And then anyway, so Apple right now, if you look here, there's a gap to be filled, 208 to 216. I think I just checked, and Apple was like 210-ish. Let me look one more time. Let's go to, not StreamYard. Right now, Sterling is down. So for those of you who are watching this, who are part of T3 trading group, and by the way, if you wanted to become a prop trader, you should definitely look into it. Got to get licensed to get leverage. Sometimes I'm sure if you're trading at home, you're like, oh, I wish I had more leverage. I wish I could play higher price stocks, because you're retail, you have a small account. Well, there are definitely ways, you could change that up. But that's not my job. But my job is to tell you, you can go to T3, T3 Trading Group. But anyway, let's see, where's Apple right now? Apple is at 207. So, I think this is going to be important today. Apple's at 207.56. The gap here is 208.42. Will Apple, trade into that gap, or will it get rejected here? If all of a sudden Apple opens up 4.7% in the first half an hour, just fades all the way down, chances are early strength is going to be faded and we're going to stay in this lower range. If it opens up and sellers come in and it can't go lower, and it wants to get into this gap, there's an 8-point gap here, then maybe the spies will be pushing that resistance also, and that'll be something to watch. If you want to go NVIDIA also, NVIDIA's always giving us clues. NVIDIA is up 2% at 113. At first, chips were excluded, and then they weren't. So the high of last week was 115. We're above 110. We're in this little spot. So again, I feel like that'll help give clues. And, on Friday when I was leaving, I'm like, watch the TLTs. TLTs are a big pressure point. If the TLTs can go green and rates come down a little bit, chances are the market could rally. And that's pretty much what happened. TLTs did, a pretty big red dog reversal down here. So that was good to realize that this could, help give clues to the day, and I filled that gap. So, every day as traders, there's always things that kind of tell you how to react, kind of tell you how to, use your tier system and how to adjust your risk. And better than watching TV, better than listening to all these freaking people out there, because, most of them have an agenda. It was funny, like all of a sudden I saw people passing on, oh, Red Dog, do you see what Dan Ives said? He's like, this is going to be historic now for tech. I'm like, well, didn't he downgrade tech in the whole and scare the Jesus out of people? He was cheerleading most of tech when it was having good moves. And then when you need, guys to give support, to have people buy dips and, invest for the long term. Because listen, trading is one thing, but investing for the long term, usually the investors win. That's why, I tried to tell people that I have a blood in the street account and I've put 50% to work. Obviously it's different than an active account, a swing account, and an options account, but long term, the bull market wins. But what analysts like to do is, when the market's great, they can go from a buy to a strong buy. But then when the S&P is down 20%, they want to add fuel to the fire. And, instead of lending confidence, right? People need confidence. That's what we're here to do. There's strength in numbers. I like to give confidence that if you do the right thing, you can make a living trading. If you do the right thing, you can build wealth over the long term by having a 401k that you put money in every month. You could pay for your kids' college by having a 529. But if you abandon things when the going gets tough, you're always going to be abandoning things in anything in life. But anyway, what else is there? So Tesla is not really participating as much. It's not really where the news cycle is. I would say 262-ish is a spot, and then you have 274. So we'll see if this lower level wants to get going to the upside. It might not be exactly where the action is today. What's called NVIDIA. I said NVIDIA before. Let's go Palantir. That's Palantir has been showing leadership status. It really has. It's not also where the news is, but look at this inside action here. Will Palantir get above and stay above 93.30? That's a pretty big spot. I want to see what Palantir is doing real quickly. This held in really well. So if you're in it, or you've been trading it, chances are you're having some good success, because it's definitely acting better than other things. So let's get there. Usually I show you my level 2, but my level 2 is not working right now. So this isn't where. So if you think you're missing everything, like what are you really missing? This right here is just 90.57. So it's really just right in this bull flag. So if you happen to not be as long as you want to be coming into today, get over it. There's still going to be a lot of trading this week, and this is still just within the range of last week. It's not like we're breaking out and it's all blue skies ahead at all. And who knows if we even hold up today. So again, drop the little anxiousness if you feel like you should be so long and making free lunch this morning, because it's not that easy. Some people are caught short. So if you're caught short, you got a short versus a level, figure if you could trade around it. But what you don't want to do is fight this all week, just in case, it is a strong week. So let me say hello to some of my dogs around the world. We got Joey A. Good morning. Andrew Harrison. Good morning from Mississippi. What up? What up? Let me tell you this, he's saying it's quantum computing day. New tariffs on the semis. Well, new tariff, not yet. It's like 30 days. Opinions loosely held. Uber, Bros, GME is perking again. All right, so let's go first into quantum. So let me says it's quantum day. I'll tell you this RGTI. Someone brought it up to me last week. It looked good, hanging in here. This could wind up being a decent name once the market gets better, but you have to accumulate it. This looks pretty good. Didn't really have a day on Friday, but it wasn't where the action was. But if this can get above and stay above, 974-ish, it looks better. But listen, I don't think I've bought a stock on strength once in the last 4 weeks. It's been hard enough to buy it in the hole and add a little bit through a spot, let alone playing a stock for a breakout. But this RGTI is going sideways. There is money being accumulated here. QUBT, this too, is also going sideways. So, these names, I would not lose sight of these names because usually when a market gets better, they come after some newer names. So, do your homework on QUBT, on RGTI, and some of those. Let's go to Hood. Hood looks good too. Hood perked up. Like, look at this. Look at this. Hood, that's a little different. Like, look at Hood perking up, breaking above a 3-day move. So if you needed to be in some kind of risk, Hood was something to be in. Robinhood, hopefully Robinhood continues to do better because I'm in the private placement for public, and I would love for one of my privates to come public. There's been no deals out there. But anyway, it's a whole different story. What I want, let's go. What's Robinhood doing? I would think Robinhood's up. Let's see. Robinhood is, that's up only up 89 cents, up 2%, but at least it's something. This gave you a reason. Sometimes you have to have a reason to be in something, and Robinhood has been acting better. You're right. What's it called? Amazon. Let's not get to Amazon. Let's go to IBIT. So to me, this crypto looks really good. I'm in a lot of IBIT calls for Friday. Looked like it was perking up. You have this downtrend here. It's not really, powerful this morning, but I feel like at some point the crypto people are going to be like, Trump, you got to throw us a bone also. You've been throwing bones here and there to all these people. So I would say, buying some calls for this Friday or a month from now, you would think that at some point, crypto gets a little bit better. And if crypto does get better, GME could get better. Some people have been buying, like even smart money from guys, my friends from BlackRock are buying GME. They're like, oh, we're buying GME. It's going to be a cheaper version of Mister. But anyway, what's this? This is 2980. Last time they made that announcement, they announced another, money raise, and that kind of suffocated it. But that was a while ago. So yeah, if you think crypto is going to have a move, GME is something to turn to, and obviously Mister is best in breed. So let's go to Mister. If I could type, Mister looks pretty good, right? Mister looks like it perked up also. Looks like it's trying to get above the moving averages. Looks like there's room to 343 or so. So if you wanted to be in IBIT and you wanted to be in Mister or GME, I would go with those versus like a Mara and a Riot and those guys. They just don't really move well. Somebody's asking me, CrowdStrike looks really good. CRWD, look at that, nice and tight here, going sideways, trying to rebuild. So if this market ever got a little bit better, you would think CrowdStrike is something to go with. Shay or Shy, whatever his name is, like you should go to his Twitter. He came up with a whole new, like 7 really strong names, AI slash, so whatever basket he wants to call it. There were 7 pretty cool names in there. I tweeted it in my public Twitter if you guys want to take a look. Celsius, I get it. It's tight. Celsius is tight. This, was pretty strong while the market was coming in. This could definitely go to the upside. I personally don't love those type of drinks. I don't think they're good for you, but you can't take what you want, likes and dislikes. It's up 62 cents, so you're not missing a whole lot here either. But again, it looks like if the market wants to hold up, this chart pattern's pretty good. Let's see what's Crowd doing. Crowd is so you always got to adjust up 4 points, getting a little follow through. That's cool if you're long that. Amazon, Amazon's in the game. Amazon, I focused a lot on it. during the whole corrective phase because it outperformed a little bit. It's looking pretty good. It's got room to this 192. It's probably opening up above this little spot here. It's got a pretty big downtrend here coming in, so that there is room into that area into 192. So it looks pretty good. Reddit, decent. Not awesome, but yeah, it's kind of had two little inside days, hasn't done a whole lot, so it's not showing anything. It's not showing anything special. I think what's looking really good, Palantir is looking like it's showing relative strength. I'm saying it from the high growth. Dash also looking really good, like it could continue to the upside. I would stay with Dash and versus Palantir. I'm not Palantir, sorry. Reddit and APP. The banks, yeah, JP Morgan, everybody wanted to short JP Morgan on Friday, but meanwhile, JP Morgan had a pretty good day. Got above this prior high up here. So watch JP Morgan. So, the question right now is what's happening, right? Will we be able to make progress this week if you want to from the upside? Are we going to gap up today? Is it going to hold and build, or is it going to fade? We know last Wednesday's high. Last Wednesday high, I'm just going to simplify it, is very important. Okay, in whatever you're trading, what could get above Wednesday's high, if anything? So right now the SPYs aren't even there. If the SPYs were to get above it, then you have some more room. It might get rejected here. So watch that. So if all of a sudden your name is getting above Wednesday's high and the SPYs aren't and the Qs aren't, that's showing relative strength. That should be a good spot or a good something for you to stay with. If all of a sudden get above Wednesday's high and your stock isn't near it, and then all of a sudden we get above and can't hold it and come back below and you adjust, chances are your stock that's shown relative strength, something that you shouldn't really be up with. Yes, Goldman, this morning, Bank of America, so watch for those. That's really it. You got to really know your time frame. In the belly of the beast, I bought 50%. I'm in 50% in the blood in the street account. I didn't get to more because we never really closed in the hole. Plus, I wanted to save some bullets just in case we went from 21% off highs to more than that, which could happen in the months ahead. As far as trading, I'm in some SPY calls, some IBIT calls. I'm not so exposed. I wish I had more, but I wasn't at my desk Friday afternoon. I was on my way to Pittsburgh for an AU basketball tournament with my son, which I wouldn't turn that clock back. And we'll see. See if we hold up today. The Qs, someone's like, what about the Qs? Qs are very similar. Above 445, 467 is Wednesday's high. If you get above 467, then this is your next level. So the Qs should be stronger based on the fact that one of the reasons we're up is because, the tariffs aren't going right on cell phones and some electronics. How to like Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh was cool. I didn't grab it Primanti. I did. We stayed at the Westin right next to the convention center. So we had our little routine, me and Chase. We woke up. It was a burger bar. We had our chicken wings, and he had some carbs and some mac and cheese. I tried to stay good. We could have played better. We had a very, very talented team, but you have to play as a team. You can't be all individuals out there. I think we could have used a stronger coach. We needed Phil Jackson. We had a bunch of personalities playing together at AAU. Everybody wanted to be a hero, so it wasn't really team ball. So it was a little frustrating. But you live and you learn. Same way, if you're frustrated with, the way you've been trading, you got to look in the mirror and say, how am I doing? What am I doing wrong? How can I adjust? How can I become better? And today's Monday. Listen, be optimistic. If you're not as long as you want to be, that's cool. As I showed you before, some things are just building. There's going to be a lot of opportunities this week. You have these 3% ranges, so just drop your stress, roll your shoulders back, loosen up a little bit and say, hey, I'm going to have multiple plans today. I'm going to have my levels. I'm going to control what I can control and, and have a nice green day and then hopefully let it up. Last week was a great week. I think a lot of traders had a lot of success. It was very tradable. And let's hope that this week continues. So stay tuned, my dogs. Hopefully, if you're done here, you're going to come with me. Oh, is Meta affected by the tariffs? I didn't really do Trump treats or control the market. Yeah, but again, the market's tipping its hands. It's either you could play with the market or you could, have all these opinions of how the market's rigged against you. On Wednesday, when we had this move, the market was strong. I told you guys at the 630 Club, it feels like, they're trying to press tech like a beach volleyball under the water. It kept popping up. So somebody knew what he was looking to do. He even said, he's like, buy stocks at like 950. So on Friday, you had Nvidia strong, you had Apple strong. Somebody knew that something was going on with Apple. Otherwise, it's had relatively weaker most of the week. So if you want to be upset that Trump is controlling the market or this is controlling the market, play on the same team. Figure out what's giving you clues, because there are some clues out there. So, just drop the whole woe is me, everything's out to get me market, because it's not true. There are ways to make money. There's ways to navigate it. There's ways to have your stress down. There are ways to embrace it. And if you had a little trouble, just adjust. It's April 14th. You have a whole half a month ahead of you. It's the second quarter. It just started. Earnings season is happening. Get rid of the edge. Otherwise, you might as well just, stop trading. The whole world's not against you. Anyway, with that said, cheers. Have a good day.